Welcome back to the next read aloud of Elmer and the Dragon. So today we are reading chapters 5 and chapter 6. Chapter 5, Flute the Canary. There he is. Elmer the Dragon rested a while on top of the cliff, watching the waves spreading out over the sandbar. Suddenly a little voice chirped, "You're Elmer Elevator, aren't you?" Elmer was too startled to answer. "Aren't you? Of course. It has been 3 years and people do change." Elmer looked all around, but he couldn't see anybody. "Yes, I'm Elmer, but who are you?" he asked. "Look up in the tree. Look up in the tree above you. It's me, Flute." Elmer and the Dragon looked up, and there he was, Flute the Canary. Funny little Flute, with 2 black eyebrows and 1 black feather in each wing. "Oh, Flute, how glad I am to see you. But how did you get here?" "I flew here the day you let me out of my cage when your mother went to answer the doorbell. This is where all the escaped canaries live. Feather Island, we call it. But what on earth are you doing here?" "Well, I just rescued this baby dragon, and he was flying me home, only we got caught in a storm and landed here instead. And now he's got to rest and get plenty of food and water before we can go on." "Does he eat canaries?" "I should say not," snorted the dragon. "Only fruits and vegetables and lollipops." "Oh, that's a relief," said Flute. "I almost didn't talk to you because the rest of the canaries were afraid. I'll just tell them that everything is all right." And Flute trilled loudly in every direction. Soon canaries were chirping all over the island, and the pine trees rustled with fluttering wings. "Let's go eat," said the dragon, who was bored and still hungry and thirsty. So Flute flew down and rode on Elmer's shoulder as they walked through the pines. "Tell me, Flute, do people live on this island?" asked Elmer. "No, just canaries." "That's what I thought. Well, how have you been getting along without my mother? She's never stopped worrying about you." "Quite well, thank you," said Flute, "but I'm beginning to suffer from the island disease." "Ooh, what's that?" "I know it sounds silly, but the whole island is sick with curiosity. And old King Can is actually dying of it." "Who's King Can?" asked the dragon, becoming somewhat interested. "He's the king of the canaries." "He's really King Can the 11th. His ancestor, King and Queen Can the 1st, were the first canaries to live on the island. They came with a party of settlers, but the settlers sailed away after a month or 2, and they left King Can and his wife behind." "Oh, now I understand about the ladder and the bucket and the pine trees and the apple orchard," said Elmer. "Yes," said Flute, "they are the work of the settlers. But to continue, migrating birds often stop by here, and King Can, being lonesome, told them to ask escaped canaries to live on his island. But even after many canaries had come, he was never well or happy. And when the other birds asked, 'Why not?' King Can would answer, 'I'm dying of curiosity.' Pretty soon the other canaries grew curious to know why he was so curious. But he told the reason only to his eldest son, and so they all grew sick with curiosity. Finally, when King Can the First was a very old canary, he did die of curiosity, and his eldest son became King Can the Second." "Oh, skunk cabbage! I smell skunk cabbage!" interrupted the dragon right in the middle of the story, because by this time they had come out onto the meadow. "It's right over there in the swamp," said Elmer, and the dragon lumbered off to eat and drink cold water. King Can the Second, the Third, the Fourth, the Fifth, the Sixth, the Seventh, the Eighth, the Ninth, and the 10th all died of curiosity as very old canaries, and now King Can the 11th is sick with it. And the rest of us are sick too. I tell you, it's an awful thing," continued Flute. "I suppose so," said Elmer. "I wonder what they could have been so curious about." "See, there you go getting curious. What a great day it will be when this island gets over the plague of curiosity." "Maybe I could help King Can the 11th, suggested Elmer. "If he weren't curious anymore, then nobody else would be curious to know why he's so curious. And everybody would get well." "That's right," said Flute. "Let's go see the king." He lives in the biggest tree in the forest. Elmer yelled to the dragon that he'd be back soon, but all he could hear was loud munching and drinking noises in the bushes. Chapter 6, King Can the 11th. Flute perched on Elmer's shoulder, and together they went to the biggest tree in the forest. Flute flew up into the branches, and Elmer heard him chirp, "Good morning, Queen Can. An old friend of mine has just arrived on the island, and I'd like to introduce him to the king." And there's the picture of them talking. "Is that your friend down there?" asked the tiny queen suspiciously. "Yes, he let me out of my cage back in Nevergreen City. The king isn't feeling well, you know." "I know. That's why I want to introduce my friend. I think he can help the king, perhaps." "Well, I'll go see if he's receiving visitors. You wait here." Soon the queen flew back all flustered. "The king will be down right away. I was really surprised. He's never before been so eager to see anyone." Elmer felt flattered and quickly tucked in his shirt and straightened his cap. Suddenly, the king flew out of the branches and landed at Elmer's feet. Elmer was disappointed. The king looked like any other canary, only bigger and fluffier than the others, maybe. "This is my dear friend Elmer Elevator," said Flute. "Hello. Won't you sit down?" said King Can the 11th. "Thank you," said Elmer, squatting down into the pine needles. "It is a great honor to have you on our island," said the king. "It is a great honor to be here," said Elmer. "The queen said that Flute said that you might be able to help me. Is that right?" asked the king. "Yes," said Elmer. "I thought perhaps I could help you find out whatever you're so curious to know. And then all the other birds wouldn't be curious to know why you're curious, and everybody would get well." Said the king. "Did you have some special plan?" "You'd have to help by telling me what's bothering you," said Elmer. "That's what I was afraid of. Why, this has been a family secret ever since my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was a young canary." "No, I couldn't possibly tell you," snorted King Can the 11th. "Oh, then I can't help you after all," said Elmer, getting up. "I'm sorry I bothered your majesty about it. Goodbye." Elmer and Flute sadly started back through the pines. Just a moment," called the king. "Maybe we could work something out. I am awfully tired of being curious. Yes, by gosh, I believe I will tell you. But don't you dare tell anyone else." "I promise," said Elmer. "Flute, go up and chatter with the queen. Your friend and I wish to be alone." The king whispered to Elmer, "You can't imagine how hard it is for me to tell you our family secret." "Oh, I'm sure it's extremely difficult," said Elmer helpfully. "Well, the secret is, oh, I can't tell you now. Could you come back at sundown? I just can't say it in the bright sunlight." "I understand," said Elmer. "I'll be glad to come back later." He called Flute, who had been trying hard not to yawn in front of the queen, and together they went to find the dragon. "Well, did you see the king?" asked the dragon, who was resting comfortably beside the pool, his stomach bulging with skunk cabbages and ostrich ferns. "Yes, but now I'm really curious. I'm to go back at sundown, and then he's going to tell me the secret. It's a very old family secret." "I just can't stand it. I can't stand it," said Flute. "Oh, I'll be so glad to be rid of the curiosity plague." "I'll do my best," said Elmer, taking a long drink of water and settling down beside the dragon to eat 8 tangerines. Elmer and the dragon fell fast asleep, while Flute went all over the island spreading the news and waiting for sundown. And that is the end of the 2 chapters for today.